Everybody, it's good to see you again. Really honored and excited to introduce you to Kathleen Gilpin, who is our Director of National Engagement for the Academic Partnership Engagement Experiment, APEX, which is a collaboration at Wright State Research Institute. I guess that's, Kathleen, a part of Wright State University in the Dayton, Ohio area, so forth. Mission is to bridge the gap among industry, academia, and government entities to advance research opportunities and so forth. Kathleen is a research scientist and has a passion for bridging academic research and government applications. Not to be outdone, however, she is also a commander in the Navy Reserves with 4 command tours, maybe more now, and 15 years of leadership and management experience. And I guess you are on a tour right now, are you not?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to your talk, and the baton is handed over to you.
Great, thank you so much. I am really happy to be here. I am actually very happy and excited to get to talk to you guys today, tell you a little bit about what APEX does, and more importantly, to serve as a link for everybody here to AFRL, the Air Force Research Laboratory, because we understand that you cannot just pick up and call the Air Force. It can be difficult sometimes to get in contact with the people you need to get in contact with to be able to have a government stakeholder on your project. And so that's what I'm here to do today, primarily, is serve as that link and that linchpin for you guys. I do have a few slides to present about what APEX does, really. So let me share my screen. All right. So APEX, this is the generic slide about APEX. We do try to do all of these things. We have people who are responsible for these different topics, and we first and foremost want to identify collaborators. This is why APEX was founded. We were founded last year in 2019, and we were founded with the sole purpose of connecting academia and small businesses and the government in order to bridge that gap, because the Air Force saw they kind of finally came on board with the valley of death that you all know so well, I'm sure, where technology is developed in the universities and either stays on the bench because the PI doesn't have the time or the inclination or the money to commercialize it. Then you have the small businesses who do have the time and the inclination and sometimes the money to commercialize it, but they don't know that the technology exists at the universities. And then the government, who could really benefit from using that technology, as long as it's dual use technology, but they also either don't know about it or they have no way of filtering that technology from the academics to the government. And so APEX was founded with that mission in mind, trying to get those 3 different entities to talk together for the benefit of really the entire United States, because we feel that that maintaining the military's competitive advantage makes the country safer for everybody. And so how do we do that? Well, I am the Director of National Engagement or National Outreach, and so I will give you a quick slide on what I do, but my slide is not that difficult to understand, right? What do I do? Well, I outreach. I try to connect the universities to the small businesses. And so I come from an academic background, and I really enjoy, talking to vice presidents of research, also tech transfer offices, and the PIs themselves with whatever technology that they have, and try to pair them up appropriately with a small business who is looking to commercialize that type of technology. And so we have those 3 entities I already talked about in the last slide: the universities, the small businesses, and the defense need. And APEX, what we try to do is widen that funnel where all 3 can come through together instead of just one at a time. And then we have broken the country out into different regions. You will not be surprised to find out that California falls in the Pacific region, but we have 10 different regions across the country. And this is really just kind of for tracking purposes almost. And we are trying to maintain a presence in each of those countries. And then down at the bottom, not countries, regions. And then down at the bottom, you can see how we're doing so far. We have a Southwest liaison, which is why the Southwest is the highest percentage. But we're trying to expand our presence everywhere. And then on the right-hand side is an example of some of our customers. So the universities are there. We have some big name universities, of course, like the University of California, but we also have some lesser known universities, or what we call non-traditional universities, like the tribal schools that are across the country, as well as small liberal arts colleges that don't typically have a research business or do grants with the government. And so we are welcoming to everybody. And then some examples of the small businesses that we have worked with recently are at the bottom. Okay, so I do national outreach, and my goal is to try to get as many people to the process navigation team as possible. And the process navigation team, you can see here in the center, really helps navigate the universities and the small businesses through the process of submitting for an SBIR STTR. And I know you've talked a lot about that already, but it's not an easy process, and it is very different from what academia is normally used to. And I am thinking specifically of NSF grants and NIH grants. If you're going to write a grant, and those are the two most popular organizations that offer funding for universities, if you are going to write a grant for one of those two organizations, it is very, very different from the grant, or it's actually a contract, but that you're going to write for SBIRs and STTRs. And so our process navigation team will help you with that. They come from a small business background. The person who runs that has started businesses himself, has been CEOs of startup businesses, and then has also just worked as an employee of a small business. So really well versed in the needs of small businesses and what you need to do to win a successful SBIR STTR. And then there's one more slide about process navigation, but I just want to introduce the idea of tech push, tech pull on this slide, because what we do is we do a lot of tech push from the national outreach, where we are gathering all these good ideas and these technologies that are already developed, or at least are well in the pipeline of development. And then we will push that to the Air Force. But we also do tech pull from some other organizations and try to link them to the big government contractors like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon and things like that. So that's the way Apex works. But like I said, I have one more slide on process navigation first. I just wanted to depict to you what really happens when you get involved with process navigation. Oftentimes people think, okay, well, this team of people at Apex or some other third-party person who will write an SBIR, STTR contract for you, they will think, okay, now that I've gotten in touch with them, I am sure to win an SBIR award. And that's not necessarily the case, of course. And so this little funnel depicts what actually happens. So we try to get a lot of people, and we try to help as many people as we can. But ultimately, the decision is not up to us, right? That would be a conflict of interest. We have no say in who is chosen for the SBIR, STTR from the Air Force's perspective. But we will offer suggestions on how to write your proposal based on what we've seen be successful in the past. And so what happens is you kind of whittle away down to a few companies that would be very, very successful, make it to the phase 2 and phase 3 awards. And we are here to help you along that way. Unfortunately, there is never any guarantee that that we can make everybody successful. But rest assured that it's our goal to make as many people successful as possible, and we work very hard to make that happen. We do that through a series of pre-award support events. These would be things like, you know, foundational webinars, teaming assistance matchmaking, which is something that process navigation and outreach work together at, where we have this listing of the companies and universities that we work with right now. And we will try to matchmake them, like I think I already kind of alluded to. And then we do also some Tech Connect assistance, which is a different program we have. And then we will get the people who want to be involved in a cohort into a cohort, which is a small group where they can ask personalized questions, and you'll have a team of people there to help you navigate the process. But we also do post-award support, and this is after you win the Phase 1 award, but are trying to get the Phase 2 and Phase 3 award. We do a different type of support, and in hopes of getting you through all the way through Phase 3. And then I wanted to give you an example of some of the things that have been successful most recently. So Apex worked with the Golden Horde Networked Collaborative Autonomous Munitions Program. And this is an idea where if you had multiple smart bombs all connected together via a network, that they would be able to act simultaneously, or at least act together on their respective targets. And so you see some good feedback about Apex down there in the left-hand corner. This was done for the Air Force and AFRL. Then on the upper right-hand corner, the sample number 3 is where we were asked to research battery technology, and for the Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile. And this is put here to exemplify our ability to do data analytics, and which we're not going to talk a whole lot about today, but we have a very robust data analytics capability, and we have access to a lot of databases, and universities have access to a lot of the same databases. So our data analytics capability is probably not that different from a university's. However, we do have a lot of overseas database access, as well as some government database access that the universities would not have. And so we were able to put this request together very quickly for them, and they were quite pleased because it helped improve the solution for this specific weapon. And then the third example I have here is Thermovant, which is a cooling technology using oscillating heat pipes. And this is for a space mission need, which of course is very up and coming these days with the development of the Space Force, or how the Space Force has recently stood up within the past 2 years. And the goal here is to space qualify these oscillating heat pipes. And this is in progress. So this is actually a direction to Phase 2 that we're working with Lockheed Martin for, and there to put things in space. So, you know, to put this technology in space. And so these 3 together highlight the ability that we have at Apex to talk with the Air Force, to link you to the Air Force once your idea is developed enough, which is something that nobody else honestly has. We were developed specifically for this mission because the Air Force said, hey, nobody can really contact us, so we're gonna fund Apex and use you as our conduit to get to us. And then we also have a different person on our team who's in charge of the education and training. And right now he's focused on microelectronics workforce development, because the Air Force sees sees microelectronics as the wave of the future. They understand that we are in a war with our near peer adversaries like China and Russia, but also other countries as well, to maintain the competitive advantage for microelectronics. They think that for the next 10 years, so from 2020 to 2030, if we don't increase our ability to create microelectronics within our own borders, then we are going to continuously rely on outsourcing from foreign countries, which really opens up a huge security risk for us as a nation. And so microelectronics is the #1 priority for the Department of Defense, certainly for the Air Force, going forward for the next decade. And so we are working that to try and help in any way we can augment the workforce, or develop the American workforce for microelectronics. And the other thing that I wanted to mention for this education and training piece is that they are developing lecture series, or free online webinar series, where you can learn about the processes of how to go from a phase 0 to a phase 1 to a phase 2 SBIR STTR award. Those aren't done yet. We are hoping to have them for some of them anyway for the 21.1 release, which will be out in January. So working on that. So that really is a brief overview of what APEX does. And then you are welcome to contact me at any time, even if it's not during an open call for proposals. Do not be shy about connecting with me and contacting me. That's my job. And like I said, I really like talking with all of the different universities, really anybody at a university, at any level. The people who are high up, as we like to say, breathing rarefied air, the vice presidents of research, but also the PIs themselves as well, anybody at the university. And with that, I will take questions. I'm happy to answer anything you guys have.
Terrific, Kathleen. Thank you very much. Informative. And Marcus, I think that here is your answer. That's the question that you had asked with regard to contacting you. So Marcus and anyone, Kathleen, can just simply reach out to you pretty much at any time?
Yes.
There are probably certain conditions and so forth, I would imagine, relative to timing of BAAs, broad agency announcements and so forth, I suppose, for a particular project.
Yeah, I think if you want to become involved with our process navigation team, if you want that support, then yes, the earlier the better for in the actual open round, because we do a matchmaking exercise in the very beginning of the open call for proposals, but we will do a second one a little bit later, but sometimes it can be a little bit too late. And I am sure that I'm preaching to the choir here, but there are several things you need in place in order to be able to propose. And some of them take some time. And I'm thinking of two things in particular. One is the SAM registration, the system for award and management, and that can sometimes take 3 to 4 weeks to get. And then the other thing I'm thinking about is the formal agreement that must be in place between the university and the small business. And it must be signed by both parties. And I don't know about your university specifically, but I do know that universities are notorious for being very, very slow in getting the paperwork through the appropriate people who need to sign it. And so if you don't start that process early, you're gonna find yourself, 2 days before the proposal is due, and you have this great idea and you have the proposal all written, everything's perfect, and you're missing that one signature on that one piece of paper, and you're gonna be forced to to delay your proposal to the next round. And so for that reason, we do encourage you to reach out to us early in the solicitation process, but you can reach out to us anytime, even if it's not during a solicitation. You can reach out to us, and then we'll add your name to our list of contacts, and you'll be first on the list for the next round. So we welcome you to contact us anytime, but if you're particularly interested in the process navigation, then the earlier the better when when the actual call for proposals opens up.
Great. So Kathleen, I wanted to confirm you had mentioned you do contracts. You do not fund grants. You fund contracts. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So actually, the Apex itself doesn't fund anything,
Okay, all right.
but we are the conduit for the AFRL and AFWERX. So AFWERX is an organization from the Air Force, and it falls under the AFRL title and chain of command. And so AFWERX will put out the solicitation. So the Department of Defense as a whole will have the different open solicitations, and that will have one from the Air Force, the Department of the Air Force as a whole. Usually, sometimes each of the departments don't necessarily participate in every single round, but usually the Air Force, big Air Force will have one call for proposals. But then AFWERX has its own call for proposals. And in this case, it has two. It has one SBIR and one STTR for this round. And that is very common. That is typically what they will do. And so we help you write a proposal for the Air Force in general, but we have special connections with AFWERX. And so again, we have no say in who they choose, but we are well connected with them, with AFWERX.
Great. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about AFWERX as well. AFWERX, that's AFWERX. And could we impose on you to maybe elaborate a little bit more about AFWERX? And my reason for asking that, Kathleen, is that we've actually received some inquiries to learn a little bit more about it. I think that there are 3 locations. It's Techstars affiliated. I think maybe in Colorado Springs or Boulder or somewhere, and then Texas, and then in the Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, not too far away from the Pentagon.
Yes, it is in DC and also in Dayton, Ohio, because that's where AFRL is located, is headquartered. Yes, so AFWERX is essentially a tech accelerator. That's what they call themselves. And it was created a few years ago, so not that long ago, I think 2018, with the purpose of advancing the Air Force research capability, and wants to make things get from basic research, which in our language is 6-1 money. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there are different flavors of money, different pots of money, and 6-1 is money that's for basic research. And so they want to get the basic research, which they see a lot of value in. They know that the best ideas come from basic research, right? And they don't want to take away that fundamental philosophy from a university or a PI, that basic research is what advances technology. They wholeheartedly agree with that. But they want to get the technology from 6-1 to 6-2, which is applied research, faster. Because sometimes universities can be a little bit slow in that regard. And so they want to help universities accelerate the pipeline, to get things out the door much more quickly. And so that's really what AFWERX does, and they have done a little bit of a paradigm shift in the past year, I would say. They have really emphasized the need to think outside the box, as opposed to, I'm going to take an NIH grant, for example, because my PhD is in neuroscience and I know biomedical stuff. But if you are proposing something to NIH and you want NIH to fund it, you need to have years worth of research backing it, and your project needs to be essentially almost done, with the exception of 1 or 2 questions that you're still trying to answer. But you need to have a lot of questions already answered and prove that your idea is likely going to work. And that's not the case for AFWERX. AFWERX has taken actually the opposite approach. They have said, we don't need any basic or any background research, really. We are willing to fund these basic research projects at a phase 1 level award, knowing that some of them might not work out. But because that's where the really good ideas come from, and they have really encouraged thinking outside the box, you know, actually proposing that pie in the sky idea that you don't think would ever work, or maybe you think would work, but your colleagues think you're crazy, and they keep saying, you know, oh, that's never going to work, or, you know, you're way out there. But that's what AFWorks is encouraging. So it's kind of a quick overview of AFWorks, but I can answer any more specific questions if they come up too.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, my colleagues think I'm crazy too, so I can relate with that comment.
We definitely do. That's why I've got to jump in here, Martin. So
sure, thanks, Scott.
No, Martin's awesome. But yeah, hi, Kathleen. I'm Scott. I'm director of the EPIC SBDC program here at UCR, and I just have a couple of questions. If we can weave a couple of questions in with some of the audience questions, because we work with our team, Martin and Misty and I and others. We have a team of about 16 different mentors that help out about 200 tech startups here in our region, both on and off campus. And I just was curious what your thoughts were. How do you recommend, our region is in inland Southern California. We do not have the same connectivity that other areas, other cities, as well as other schools do. For example, you know, a USC, a UCLA, a Cal, to the primes. And I was just curious if you have any thoughts on, you know, how we could potentially get some of our startups more connected into that world for contracts, the potential of getting contracts. We're doing a lot of deep tech work here in the region, battery research, materials science, you know, tons and tons of things that could apply. But I just think the connectivity to date is not as strong as it is with other areas and regions.
Okay, great. I will give you two answers. The first one is you could contact me, and I would put you in contact with Daryl, my colleague who does the tech pull, and he is very well connected with those primes. And so we could do it that way. That would, I think, be a tedious way of doing it. So another option I have would be we could maybe set up something where Daryl came to talk to you as well, or he could give a brief or a talk to many, right? It could be like a one-to-many thing where a lot of people got the information all at once, and then you could connect with him, or he could give you probably better insight into exactly what he would need in order to connect you to a prime. I know sometimes we, as in the Air Force, would be happy to connect anybody to a prime. That's our goal. However, the primes can be a little bit standoffish sometimes, because they're not as interested in basic research as the Air Force is. Oftentimes they will have their own arms of basic research, and they're just not interested in a whole lot of outside input. But they are very, very interested in the applied research. And so it can be tricky connecting with the primes, because they are not really interested until you have a very viable idea that has been tested through the phase 1 award, and you have a phase 2 award. That's really when the primes get most interested. And it can be difficult to connect people to the prime at the phase 1 level. And so it's a little bit complicated, but it can be done. It can definitely be done. And so that's why I was thinking, maybe if we set up a different time for Daryl to come talk to you, to your group, or to anybody you wanted from your university, maybe that would be a good idea too.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And that's what I was referring to. Just, I understand that we have enough contact with them to know they're not interested in basic research, but I was definitely talking about the applied research, or I'm talking about some of the startups that are in our region that aren't even necessarily university research, but they have patented IP that could fit into one of the areas that we talked about earlier that the primes may be interested in. So that I think that's a great idea, Martin, don't you, to have Daryl come out, or not come out, but we could do a Zoom, and then that would be a resource we'd have that, not just the professors and the grad students, et cetera, but also the entrepreneurs in the region could access. So I think that's a great idea. We should definitely do
without
that.
question. And
Yeah.
and Kathleen, as you and I had discussed earlier, and you know, the reason why Misty and I put together this entire 2-week conference is that we need the universities and non-academics to get to know you. I mean, everybody has heard of the Big Five, but not a heck of a lot of people really know, and therefore don't even have thereby the opportunity to take advantage of what all of you offer. So yeah, the answer is a definitive yes. Yeah, we'll definitely have you come back, and Daryl as well. So terrific. Scott, thanks so much for that. And Scott, by the way, Kathleen is the director of the EPIC SBDC here, and he is the one who has the connections and maintains the high caliber relationships with venture capital operating companies and angel groups throughout the region, actually nationwide for us as well. So thanks very much indeed, Scott, for jumping in there. I wanted to, Elizabeth, thanks for your patience. Elizabeth is a client of ours, and she wanted to know, she's been working on a biomedical device project for a couple of years now, frankly. She was interested in learning whether whether Apex or AFRL, if you've looked into and funded medical devices for use in the healthcare section of the military also, if that is there an opportunity there?
Yes, that's a great question. There is absolutely an opportunity there. Sometimes when people think about the military and what they want to fund, they think, oh, they want to fund weapons or they want to fund airplanes, and that is true. That is absolutely true. We definitely want to fund those. But the AFWorks in particular has an entire section devoted to medical devices. And other biomedical technology, but they specifically call it medical devices in their SBIR and STTR call for proposals. So yes, there absolutely is a need for that. In the past, the Air Force has been very focused on hypoxia because it was a series of problems with their fighter jet pilots not having enough oxygen at high levels when they were flying, and they would black out. The pilots would black out, and so they have been very interested in researching hypoxia. But they also have been interested in wound healing. So I'm not sure what Elizabeth's technology is, but the wound healing is also a big deal for people on the battlefield. Right? We've been in war for decades now, and so if there's any way to help the men and women on the battlefield immediately in cases of things like limb amputations, then they are very, very interested in that as well. And there's actually a list of other biomedical technologies that I could pull up. I don't have it off the top of my head. I could pull it up though, or if maybe if there's like just 2 minutes afterwards, I could get that list, because there is a list of things that they are interested in.
Sure, absolutely. I wanted to make certain, some of us are newbies when it comes to the distinguishing characteristics between contracts versus grants and how they are structured to apply for them and so forth. Could you spend a couple of moments to bring us up to speed on what are the distinguishing characteristics between the two? Some of us are familiar, but many of us are not.
Okay, yes. So these are contracts, and with the contract comes some more requirements to report on what you're doing to the Air Force, because they have given you this money, and you've signed a contract that you will do what you have said you'll do, and so there are a lot of reporting requirements that come with that, and it depends on what phase you're in, if it's a phase 1 or a phase 2 award, and then of course there are different requirements to get the awards, but they vary each time, and they vary with the SBIR and STTR. So I don't have the differences of them all prepared right now, because like I said, they do vary each time. So this round of proposals is very different from the last round of proposals, and they have many more requirements in this one. They have a lot more requirements in this one than they did in the last one. So I could get you that answer also, if there were, you know, if there were just like 2 or 3 minutes afterwards, that I could get that answer for you.
I'm more than happy to, for mostly humanitarian reasons, to quit yakking and give you the time to do that. So yeah, absolutely. That'd be terrific. So just following on Elizabeth's question, because it actually brings up another related topic actually, and it reminds me of another startup that we have been working with for several years now. And one of the issues with small business concerns, companies that would love to work in concert with the DoD, Air Force, or your counterparts, the Army and the Navy and so forth. And when they look at when the broad agency announcements are issued, and they look and find, well, gee, I don't think there's anything here that fits me. Now, what am I going to do? And what happened with one client is that Chris is his name. He had a personalized flotation device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So that's okay. Yeah, I think it's 5 o'clock in the morning. You need to go grab that coffee, by the way, if you need to.
Oh,
Yeah, by the way, everybody, Kathleen hails from the future, so this is a special occasion for us. So I don't know if you can give us the lottery results or anything, but that'd be terrific. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, getting back to the topic here is what he did was to start what I call pollination, to reach out to people just like you and say, gee, I was wondering, Kathleen, I'm working on an idea, wanted to get your take on it. And ultimately, he did end up being funded by NAVAIR, phase 1 and phase 2, for this. It's a personal flotation device, also known as a RAF for pilots. What he had done was extensive communication, and it took a while, but down at Camp Pendleton, Naval Balboa, back in your neck of the woods, Dayton area, back out in Washington, D.C., the list goes on. And ultimately, a so-called FOA, if that's the proper term, funding opportunity announcement, came into play, and he applied for it and succeeded in that. That long-winded question, so to speak, is do those types of things happen where perhaps some of us could reach out to you and just simply engage in a conversation and maybe start with your guidance and support, start building collaborative relationships, just number one, to confirm, validate there is indeed interest in this, and then number two, expand on that collaboration to actually commence with maybe structuring a funding opportunity and so on.
Yes, the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. That is, and there can be some advantages to that, actually, because sometimes when we are in the middle of a proposal, we have a lot of people coming to us for help, and I mean, which is great. But if you came to us and you just had a general idea and you wanted to you know, talk about it over the course of a month or 2 months or something, then it would be better, I think, if you came to us with you know, outside of the call for proposals, because that way we could give you a lot more personalized attention and devote more time to you. But yes, that there is no problem with that whatsoever. And I mean, we actually would welcome that. And I would also wanted to say about the BAAs not having your topic or not having, you know, your area of expertise. So it is true that each one will list different areas that they're focused on or that they want at that time. However, there's always an open topic for AFWorks anyway, always an open topic. And there was just an article that I read about from somebody who had looked into AFWorks and saw what they were funding, and they fund 90%, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. 90% of what they fund comes from the open topic. So they list 10 to 12 topics every time, but that's not what they're choosing, or that's not who they're funding. They're funding the people who come through the open topic submission. So really, AFWorks, I think AFWorks is holding true to what they're saying, where they want the best ideas, and they don't care if the best ideas are not necessarily what they thought they would be, or they don't fall under the topics that they thought they would fall under. They are just interested in funding the best ideas, and don't care how they get there.
Good. That's good to know. That's encouraging. We really didn't know that. So if nothing else, that's great information from you. Kind of curious also, the other agencies, well, many of them anyway, offer guidance. Again, I refer to some of us who may be new at this. Phase 0 programs, commercialization readiness programs, applicant assistant programs. I'm sure you're given your background with probably applying for and receiving funding from NIH or any of the entities within the NIH. Do you guys offer any type of program to help us become better proposers, that is to say?
Yes. So we will send out a link at the beginning of every open call for proposals, and it will let you sign up for our process navigation team. And so you can go there, and then we once you are assigned a coach or a navigator, I think we're calling them now, then you can and then you'll get all that information. There are lectures or lessons on how to write a commercialization strategy, or how to write a winning commercialization strategy, how to write a cost estimate, what is the Air Force actually looking for as compared to NIH or NSF, those types of things. How do you write a white paper for the Department of Defense? Is it different from other white papers that you've written? Should I follow the solicitation to a T? Yes, you should. So those types of things are all covered every time there is an open call for proposals. And so theoretically, you could even sign up for these services without really intending to propose that year or that month, during that cycle. You could sit through it more than once. You could, do it one time as you're like 6 months out from submitting a proposal, but you think you just need some of the information, or you want to get a head start on things. That's totally fine too. So yes, we do offer those types of services.
Terrific. So how important are commercialization plans?
Hey Martin.
Yeah.
Before you ask that one, can I ask a question that came in from Kieran from the audience? Oh,
sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
audience is always first choice.
Yeah. So Kieran wants to know, I am interested in learning if you have come across any applications or projects with geospatial technology, solution support, or mapping support.
Yes, the answer is yes. And if you have that technology, now is a perfect time to apply for an SBIR or STTR. Because Space Force was recently stood up 2 years ago, right? And they have gotten to the point now where they have their structure, they have the basics of what it means to be a branch of the military. But now they are looking for, well, what should we be doing? What kind of research should we be doing about space? What kind of war do we expect to have in space in the next 2 or 3 decades? And so they're asking all these really important questions. And if you have a space technology, then now is the perfect time for you to to get on board with the SBIR STTR process, because it is the topic that is always on AFWERX's open list of topics that they want to see. So I would definitely highly encourage you to apply for whatever your technology is.
Terrific. Yeah, geospatial location and so forth and tracing is Karen's initiative. Thanks, Karen, very much indeed. So we have been discussing warfighter opportunities and so forth. Do you get involved in any way with regard to exploration and so forth relative to what we are shooting for with the moon, Mars, Venus, Zorkon, other planets, anything like that?
No, I have never heard of that, and that's not to say that there is not, you know, one or two researchers at AFRL who are doing that, but it is not a big issue for the Air Force right now. No.
Scott was smirking there. He's accustomed to my weird sense of humor. He's still trying to get used to it. Anyway, so anyway, the reason why I asked about commercialization plans is because that and the properly designing research methods and so forth and managing are two of our biggest bugaboos, our major issues that we struggle with, a lot of us. And so that was also the reason, by the way, what I had asked you earlier, Kathleen, about the phase 0, that is to say, CRP, AAP, and so forth. But with regard to, and I'm still trying to make certain that we're in sync with regard to what we typically understand as an SBIR is with the other agencies, as opposed, you know, for grants as opposed to contracts and so forth. But how important are commercialization plans, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And to that end, is that a major consideration of yours, even with early stage or slightly beyond early stage transformative innovations of interest to you?
Yes, the answer is definitely yes. They are extremely important. The Air Force and AFWERX is looking for your commercialization strategy, and that is really the only thing that is absolutely necessary to win a phase 1 award. So they will put out a laundry list of requirements that you have to meet to win a phase 1 award, and that's good. But the thing that can make or break you is the commercialization strategy, because the purpose of the phase 1 award is to test the feasibility of your idea. That's it. That is it. There is nothing else. It just tests the feasibility, and that is really open-ended, right? There are a lot of different ways you can interpret test the feasibility. So then what that means is that the proposals that are all coming in really boil down to, well, who does the Air Force see as having the best chance of commercialization success, or who does the Air Force see as having the best strategy to commercialize their product or, you know, tech, because everybody's coming in with just this a very generic thing of, well, we will test the feasibility of my idea. Okay, but now how do you differentiate all of those proposals that essentially say the same goal, you know, have the same goal? Well, it comes down to the commercialization strategy. So yes, they are very, very important. And our team can help you write that based on what we've seen in the past. We don't actually do any physical writing. The words have to come from you. The basic ideas have to come from you. But we will give you our guidance and what we've seen be successful in the past.
Nice. Okay, that's terrific.
Hey, Martin, can I ask a question?
Sure, please do. Yeah.
So I'm just curious from your perspective, Kathleen. So we do a lot of work with the Naval Surface Warfare Center here in Corona, and we're working to help them bring their IP out of their labs and try to help get it commercialized, similar to what we do with UCR and other universities in the region. And I was just curious, how do you think that there's pretty good communication already between the different groups, I would imagine with massive organizations, you know, it's hard to even communicate within a massive organization. So I was just curious if you think that, you know, do you need help kind of connecting the dots between some of these different things? So for example, like there may be technology at NSWC and Corona that you guys don't even know about, for example. So like would our team serving to kind of connect some of that opportunity to you guys be helpful or not?
Yes, it would be very helpful, and we would love to collaborate with you. We could not agree with that statement more, that that it is difficult to communicate across services and across different organizations. So yeah, we have no idea what's happening at naval service warfare centers across the country, and so part of that is what Apex was founded for. We are funded by the Air Force, but we do have a lot of connections across the government. So I, for one, am in the Navy, so I have a fair number of Navy contacts. There are other people who work for Apex who are former Air Force or former Army. There's a former Army 07, so a general. So he certainly is well connected with the Army. So we do have strong connections throughout the services, but that's not to say that we know everybody or everything that's going on. There's no way we would ever say that because we know that we don't. So yeah, we would love to collaborate with you on going forward.
Okay, cool. We got another question from the audience. Kat asks, I'm sorry I missed it, but how do we search for open Air Force and AFRL, ERX opportunities, deadlines, et cetera, for SBIR and for contracts?
There is a website. It is, well, you can get to it through SBIR.gov. That's like that's the general website. And then you have to drill down to get to the actual list of dates when they're proposing. I could send that to you or somehow get that to you, or you could just search for it yourself. It's not that hard to find. I mean, if I can find it, I'm sure you can find it just through a quick Google search. And so that would get you the dates, and that would also get you all of the current open solicitations. And there are a lot of them. I mean, we are talking right now about the Air Force, which has 3 open right now. But I mean, you have to take into consideration the Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Homeland Security, the Health and Human Services. I mean, there are any government organization you can think of probably has different SBIR, STTR opportunities. And so there is a list of all of the open solicitations on that website as well. To specifically find the AFWERX ones, I can either send you the open, the 3 open call for proposals that they have right now. That's one way to do it. Or you can go to that website and you can search for AFWERX and Air Force. That's the second way to do it. And then the other way to do it is I guess you could, it's on the AFWERX website. Actually, it's going to be on the AFWERX website. So you could search for you could Google AFWERX, and they would have, it has a link to the open call for proposals now too.
That sounds terrific. We can probably seek that out. So we'll give it our best shot. If we can't find it, Kathleen, we'll reach out to you. And so, you know, Kathleen, the rest of my questions are, it's almost like I'm leading the witness. I already know the answers to them. I'm just trying to impress upon all of us the importance of them. But you had indicated that you, if we've got a couple of moments to spare, that you might be able to share with us. Welcome to do that. I know you need to break away for your one-on-one appointments very soon.
We have about what, 5 minutes left, Martin, or so? Misty?
Yes, 5
maybe
minutes.
maybe about 5 minutes max, Scott, and that's
okay.
it. And we need
all right,
we need
cool.
to free Kathleen to meet with several folks.
Oh, Kat just had a follow-up. I think, I don't know if I put the right link in there, but I did put the AFWERX SBIR link in there, but she also was asking about contracts. I guess that would also be something she could find online pretty
You
easily.
bet.
Okay. And then,
Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel, go ahead. You want to ask it? Go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Now, either way, no worries, Scott. Anyway, okay, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Can we obtain the list of AFWorks focus areas of interest for biomedical topics before you sign off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I am looking for it right now. I've emailed it to people recently, so of course now, and I really need it. It's not coming up
Sure.
quickly.
Yeah. Now that the pressure's on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for those of you listening, and if you need to get in touch with us, do you want to, I don't know, Misty, should we throw your email in the chat there just so people can reach out if they need to on any of the SBIR, STTR stuff we talked about?
Sure. Okay, here you go. It's so the Air Force is interested in hypoxia, wound healing, and so those are the two I already mentioned, but they're interested in biosynthesis of monomers for aerospace thermostats, biosynthesis of high density endothermic fuels, and human performance enhancing probiotics. And that list came from earlier this year. It was about June, maybe May or June that list came out. So so it's pretty current. It's not.
It's pretty recent. Hopefully that helps, Rachel. If not, Rachel, reach out to either Misty or yours truly here, and we'll help you out. We'll get you those answers. So that's terrific.
Actually, Martin, one thing that I don't know if Kathleen knows is that actually one of our researchers actually did receive some grants and some other funding to help the pilots with hypoxia. Remember No Sang's inventions that he worked on for the Navy and for the, I believe it was for the Air Force and the Navy, or maybe was it the Navy and Air Force, Mr. Just the Navy? I can't remember, but remember that whole project he did to try to solve the problem of the
yes.
Oh yeah. So we actually have had some connectivity with you in the past on that hypoxia issue. So that's kind of interesting that's something they're still looking for help on. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
yeah.
Well, Kathleen, we've done it. It's a whole hour. It goes so quickly. It always does. And we are grateful that you could join us. And I know that there are many who would like to hear me stop talking so they can start meeting with you one-on-one. So we'll certainly free you up to do that. And thank you, Misty. So this wraps up our first week. It went really fast. And so next week, still a lot of fun things going on, a lot of very helpful things. We're starting on Tuesday. We're gonna give all of you a break. You get to take Monday off. How about that? But we'll be with the Department of Education, Environmental Protection, Army Research Lab, and we are going to have a workshop on project plan development at 1 o'clock. So we encourage you to mark all of those on the calendar, and you're seeing the rest of the calendar all the way through Friday, concluding with the National Science Foundation Partnerships for Innovation. So lots of stuff going next week, and we look forward to seeing you there. Kathleen, what an honor. Great to have you join us today, and we really appreciate the time that you've given us. And yes, you mentioned Daryl. We want to see you both back here real soon.
Thanks,
Okay,
Kathleen.
great.
Thanks so much, very much indeed. Bye
Thanks,
for
everyone.
now.
Great.
Take care.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a great
Thank you
weekend.
for having me.
Bye.
You bet.